Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Mourning People, the podcast for those of us with horrible imposter syndrome who don't do grief right. I'm Nina, and today I am joined by author April Morgan, who is a severe badass, and I was so honored to have her on the show today. She is the author of Married to the Job. Work isn't a job, it's a relationship. April D. Morgan. She's brilliant and so sweet and kind and just like radiates sunshine. And we connected about her story with grief and we got together and had a little talk about it. So I hope you enjoy her on the show. Okay. Toodles. There we go. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing good. So, April Morgan, I'm with Elevate People Ops LLC, and I am the writer. Sounds weird to say, the author, Married to the Job. It's not a job, it's a relationship, where my business and my book mirror each other and trying to establish long lasting relationships within the workplace so that you can have overall success with your business and with your personal and professional life at work. So, that's kind of how we correlate with each other, and that's what we're here doing is trying to make businesses great and and venturable. I'm fulfilling, I'm sorry, with those relationships.
Yeah, I just purchased your book over the weekend. I skimmed through it a little bit last night, but I haven't got a chance to take a deep dive yet. I've been so busy
Oh yeah.
forever. So,
No worries, no worries. Hopefully you enjoy it and you get some good takeaways from it. Absolutely.
yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
for
I really
buying it.
like I talked to my son. My son is 17. He's just like trying to get into, find a job and stuff like that. So I was like, "Oh, I'm having an interview with this woman who wrote this book," and he really liked the concept of it as well. So we'll see
Mhm.
if he wants to give it a read once I'm done.
Yeah, my son said it's really is going to drive with his generation that struggles kind of with those relationships or they're new to the workforce
Yeah.
because they're struggling with relationships in general and this, so the correlation between the two is good. So hopefully I can find that niche there. So thank you for spreading the word to your son.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So it was almost 9 years ago. We were on a family vacation. We call it our Griswold vacation, and our son got sick with sepsis. And we just thought he ate some bad Bellagio meat, ate some bad lamb or whatever. And it turned out to be sepsis. Well, mind you, I am geriatric pregnant. That's what they call you, pregnant at 38, by the way. With
Lovely.
our, I know, right? Isn't that a Hallmark card? But I was geriatric pregnant, was 6 months along with our little girl, and we're on vacation. So, by this time we had made it from Las Vegas to where we're supposed to go over to the Grand Canyon, Griswold, right? And so we were in Phoenix at the Children's Hospital, and he was in ICU with a central line and PIC line and all the things. And I have this mentality that there wasn't a question that he was going to be okay because he was going to be okay. Like they come in and they tell me how serious it was and have me signing the paperwork, but I was just like, I'll sign this, but like I don't know why we're talking like what if, because I know he's going to
Mhm.
be okay. He has to be okay. Like so I didn't, and I worked beside his bedside, and we stayed there for like almost 3 weeks. Came home for a week, and then he got sepsis again and had to have emergency surgery here in Indiana, where I live. And he was home for a week, well, and getting on his feet. Went over to my dad's house to go to a concert with him. Wasn't feeling great, so they went back to his house and had a good talk that night. Picked my kid up the next day, and my daughter and my sister went to a concert, and somebody called us and said that my dad's bike was down, his motorcycle. I asked them on the phone. I was like, I'm the oldest. I have two kids here. At this time, they're like 15 years old. I didn't know what to do with these kids, and they're like, he didn't make it. You need to come home. So I remember just going there and I'm like, I can't believe my dad's gone, and the grief that my son felt was like, man, it should have been him, or he can't, that was like a father to him. Why did he live and my dad didn't when they were so like nearby in their journeys.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I had literally just the importance of a hug. I make my kids give me 20-second hugs now. 20 seconds, like big hug, it's awkward. And if they're really rotten, it's like 20 long seconds, right? But I remember just giving him a quick hug goodbye. And most people don't have that, so I'm blessed. But I wish I
Yes.
would have just hugged him longer and like
Mhm.
taking him in longer, and he was gone. And didn't I didn't do any of the grief then. I was like, okay, I'm the oldest. We have a funeral to plan. We have things to do. My sisters need help. My son needs help through this. I got the work stuff to do. I need to be well for my baby. And I just kind of trucked through. And then it wasn't until my maternity leave when, you're alone with your baby and your emotions and all the things that I was like, holy S. Like, I could have lost my son. I lost my dad. He's not here to see this beautiful little blessing, and really felt the grief of everything.
Yeah.
And so I said, at my dad's funeral, that I swore that my dad's story would be told on through me and my children and my children's children, and which is what started me thinking about the book. But then, you start thinking about your own mortality when someone passes like that, right? I have children. My son's 15. What happens if something happens to me? And then my legacy, how is that going to live on? Which is why I started writing the book to get
Yeah.
to bring it full circle and tell that story. And
Absolutely.
then, what was it, 4 years ago when my mom died 5 years ago, my mom died of cirrhosis of the liver.
Mhm.
My dad got custody of us, and I was in the 80s. So, my mom had some struggles, has always chosen alcohol. And when she got sick, I decided that, you got to take care of her. That's what you're supposed to do. That unconditional love you have for a parent. And she was still kind of a rotten soul, but she's just didn't love herself. So how could she love anybody else? Right.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
And the last 6 months of her life, I showed her more care and compassion than I think I ever got from her during that time. And the grief that we talked about on the phone it wasn't just the grief of my mom passing. It was the grief of a relationship that never would be, a relationship that never was, all the things, right? So when I was talking about your podcast, it was like all the stages of grief that comes in so many colors and so many different things. And it's all about relationships. One, the relationship with yourself, right? Which is something that often gets neglected. Taking the
Mm.
time to mourn. Mourning looks different for people. Like you said, you got a dark humor, same, right?
Yeah.
But it's the grief for yourself. It's the grief for relationships that would or couldn't have been, and just the overall loss. It just impacts people differently. So I felt like a lot of my book was how it impacts you at work. You're not your best self, right? And
Yeah.
people don't understand. You don't understand to show people how to understand. So that's why it generated with me. And I thought that we were the perfect pairing. As soon as we talked on the phone and couldn't stop talking, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, yeah, there is a correlation in these relationships and stories that need to be told because people don't realize the different colors and the different look that grief has in the different relationships. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think one of like the biggest things that kind of hit me when we were on the phone the other day was when your mom was sick and you
Hmm.
jumped into a caretaking role for her. In moments like that, we have to put our ego away. When your history is nothing but struggle and animosity in the relationship with a parent who is now relying on you to take care of them and having to reconcile that and just do it anyways. And by no means am I saying you have to because it's your parent, but that in and of itself comes with so much grief. On top of the grief, you also have guilt, and it's just this spiral of shame and guilt and pressure to do it all right.
No, like when my dad died, I my employer, I say his name, Joe, he was phenomenal to me. My whole employer were, but I remember I was on maternity leave and I was really in my feels at that time. And I was like, I was only gonna take 6 weeks off, but I needed to take longer. And he's like, you take the time you need. I'm here for you. But he's like, you need to come back because you're alone with your thoughts and it's not healthy right now. And I realized that and I needed that from him. You know what I mean? My employer was so great when my dad passed away and I trucked through it and I got through it. But when my mom was struggling in that death, I handled it completely different. I wasn't composed. I reverted back to a child because I never had that childhood with her that I wanted, right? Like she wasn't one of my former coworkers, she said to me, I said, "Well, my mom and I had nothing in common. Like I don't get anything from mom." And my mom always kept her nails really well kept. And then when Samantha went into the hospital to visit one time, she goes, "Do you notice that you and your mom are always, even on her deathbed right now, her nails look good. That's going to be you." And then she pointed out some other things about my mom. Like my mom always liked to dress up and like these. So there are nuances that I call her Molly because I didn't feel like she really earned the mom title, which is kind of
Yeah.
hard, right? But there were certain nuances that Molly had that was similar, right? And I took away, she taught me so much. And I don't want to talk disparagingly about her because what she did and didn't bring made me the person I am today. And it's pretty significant. And I'm happy for that. And so are my children and everything else. But at that time in my life, when I was grieving, I wasn't my best self and I couldn't express it to my employer. I couldn't express it to the people around me. And all these changes were going on in my life. And I couldn't hear all that right then because the only thing I was thinking about was this little girl that had begged her mom at one time. I looked at her and I said, "It's either alcohol or me." And she looked me in the eyes and she took another drink of her drink and stared at me. And that wasn't her. I realize that now. It wasn't her. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, right? It doesn't mean that that disease didn't have a hold of her. And it's like watching a car accident in slow motion. You're telling them to stop. And then the very thing I didn't want to watch her do with this accident, I helped her with because they were taking 3 liters of fluid. Now look at a 2-liter bottle and think of that two, 1.5,
Yeah.
taking that off of her belly twice a week. I'm coordinating her appointments. I'm trying to get her seen. My mom is younger than 60, so she doesn't have a place for mom. There's a place for mom, doesn't take a place for mom when she's younger and doesn't have health care or money. I had to find a homeless shelter for my mom to go to hospice in. And it was a beautiful facility, but it's all so much that no one could understand. No one could compartmentalize or wrap their head around at that time to see how hard that was. So I wasn't my best self. And so at work, normally I'm like on my game and I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
at all. And I couldn't explain it to anybody. I was just spiraling and I was watching myself spiral and I couldn't stop. Right. And
Yeah.
so I talk about
Yeah.
that in here and I talk about how that spiral, it just creeps up on you and
Yeah.
you're not your best self. And then you have to come to terms with that grief, the loss of who you were, because I'm not the same person I was then. And it's taken
Mhm.
time. The loss of friendships from then, the loss of relationships, the loss of a relationship that wasn't. And so many things that come into
Yeah.
play that is beautiful, ugly, honest, and it doesn't look the same for everybody. So 2 parents, 2 different relationships, 2 very different ways of taking care of it and taking care of myself. And, you think you'd learn from one, but you don't. And
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
it's unique.
So far, everyone that I've connected with has taken the loss and turned it into some. And again, I'm not saying that we have to do that. Everyone is on their own journey, but a lot of people are scared to talk about death. A lot of people are scared to talk about grief, and I think that kind of goes into why grief can be such a lonely place too, is because people don't know how to talk about it, right? Mm.
We talked about this. It really is doesn't define you is what we were talking about. What your upbringing, your incidences in life doesn't define who you are. The comeback's always greater than the setback. And so, if anybody told me I couldn't do something, I was going to do it, and wasn't going to just do it. I was going to do it good. I told you about my guidance counselor was like, "Oh, you're meant to work in a fast food restaurant like your mom," and I was like, "Probably not." So I sent that guidance counselor pictures of me doing really well in life. Like, here's a photo of this, and here's a picture of me with the governor, and the picture of me with this general, and the picture of me doing this. And it really wasn't for her; it was for me. And she wrote me back. I was like, I don't know if I helped you or pushed you, but either way, I'm glad you're doing well. And that was enough. I stopped being super weird and sending pictures to her, being middle finger to you, and
Yeah.
like put the middle finger to me. I was like, you did this. You didn't let something define you. You didn't let your childhood define you. You overcame it. Same thing with grief. When you're going through grief, you don't want it to define you. You feel it. I can't tell enough people, feel it, feel all the feels. Know that it doesn't look perfect. And then for people that are responding, sometimes the best thing to do is just quietly listen, let them spiral a little bit, and then allow them to come back because the comeback's going to be greater. It doesn't have to be a book or a podcast, but it can be just a better you, a better version of you, or more healed you. And that
Mhm.
right there is just as good as any podcast or book that you could come up with.
I remember when we talked, I told you about when like I had my daycare and I separated from my son's dad, and slowly families were leaving and finding more stable childcare for their kids, and just laying in bed, and I was honestly, I was so overwhelmed and so stressed that my chest physically hurt, and I was just sobbing because it was something that I love children, and I loved what I did. And watching everything I built slowly crumble under my feet was so hard. And I remember cried that entire night, and the next day I was like, yeah, I need to look for a job. But it was like I let myself feel it for as long as I needed to, and then it was like, okay, now it's game plan time. To allow yourself the space to feel it. Another thing that we talk about is sometimes with grief you throw yourself into your work, or throw yourself into a caretaker role. So you're so distracted you don't have time to feel it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we confuse resilience with distraction.
Yeah. Yeah. No, think about it from the workplace. As a workplace, a standard leave for a close family member for 3 days, right? So that's with the death or the funeral in conjunction with. That's the HR me talking, right? So in conjunction with death or funeral, you get 3 days. Okay, 3 days,
Yeah.
I got to get over it. 3 days. Well, when someone dies, it's close to you. You want everything just to stop. Like you recognize it's a national holiday for me. Like I want everybody to stop and recognize that this great man, like my dad, this great man is gone. It's significant and it doesn't go away in 3 days. And I'm expected to now, after 3 days, to rally, come back to work and like put it, okay, check it out the door. Come on, grief, let's go in. And I've noticed that unrealistic expectation is there for employees, and it's just not. It doesn't happen, and I mentioned that in the book. It doesn't happen that way. A young girl that I was working with, she lost a child, and it was right after the time, and she didn't go to full term. It was a miscarriage, and she had been trying so hard. And I remember shortly after I lost my dad, and I checked in on a regular because I knew you get the 3 days, but it doesn't take the 3 days. It doesn't even take the 3 years, right? three
Yep.
years to get over these things. That you're still have this loss there and it's significant. And you need to acknowledge that and give that time. Again, rally, I get it, but just understand as employers that 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 years doesn't negate the impact that's there and the person that's there and the grief that that person's taking has
Yeah.
and how it impacts them. But your response, your relationship with them after is going to have all the difference in the world. So that's kind of why I wrote the book too, is I see the impact that it has and people will either work with you or for you, right?
Yep.
And I want people to work with me on things. And I hope that moving forward, I'm always that person that works with somebody through that because then they're always going to work with me and for me in the future. Right.
Absolutely.
So think about that when you're talking about grief. You expect in our minds, we get 3 days and you're supposed to let's go. And it doesn't work that way.
I think we touched briefly about, how I'm a loudmouth political person. Like, turn everything into a political conversation. But it just goes to show that we we aren't set up for things like that. We and again with the comforts, like comfort for the boss is you out there making the money, right? So we're not going to allot you the time to feel the feelings. You need to take your 3 days and come back to work. We need more people in the higher up positions starting their own businesses, starting their own companies, understanding employees are human and
Mhm.
they're going to have human experiences. And I think that is, again, just like so powerful.
Yeah. Giving them the space while you can also accomplish what you need, right? It's easy to, as an HR, like, oh, here's the EAP program, the employee assistance program here, get the resources you need. But let's stop and actually be a resource for people. That's what human resources are. I'm a resource for people. AI is never going to take that job, right? But you can't have that taken away when you use that human part of the human resource. So being that human resource, and I got a lot of leaders that are just like, that's why they have human resources. I'm not a hugger. I don't do the emotions. HR, go. They need a hug. There's emotions. Push play, go. But and I appreciate that. I appreciate you recognize that you're an awkward hugger and you're not going to be good at this, and you tag in a professional to do that. That's what we're here for, right? As a human resource. But you have to be able to have that support from leadership and understanding from leadership that this person's going to need a little bit more space. They're going to need a little bit more time. I can get them and talk to them about seeking the counseling they need, but they need the resources and the time to do what they need to do. And that person's going to be a forever person shouting your name from the rooftops about how great you were because you supported them through it. And they're going to have longevity because you showed up when it mattered, right?
Mhm.
Not just showing up to show up, but you showed up when it mattered. In the deepest, darkest time of my life, I'll never forget the people that were there for me. Right.
Yeah.
And that's when you can actually be present. So I hope that these conversations start to change the way that we're viewing those things. A little bit more compassion in there, no matter
Hmm.
what the climate is, just more compassion in everything that we do. I think we'll go very far in this world that we live in, no matter what it
Yeah.
is, just
Yeah.
loving each other a little bit more.
Absolutely. And you know what? I really appreciate that too. I'm Canadian, so things are different here, but it's still very, very similar. But it's almost like you're like HR for the employees, whereas a lot of times it's HR to protect the company. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like how it
Yeah.
feels most of the time. It's like your heart is in it.
Well, when you do look out for I look out for my company all the
Oh,
time,
no,
right?
absolutely.
I have absolutely have to look out for my company, but the best way I can look out for my company is to look out for my employees. If I have a great employee who's stellar at what they're doing and I want to keep this gem, this asset that I have, we say we're assets all the time. But if I want to keep this asset and I show them love and compassion, I just nurtured this asset, right? I just
Mhm.
benefited the company. Now,
Yeah.
within policies and procedures, because okay, you need to take leave. So let's talk to you about an employee assistance program. Let's talk to you about family medical leave. Let's talk to you about ADA. Let's talk to you about all these things. Let's talk about sick leave that you can use. Okay, we can do all of those things. And that's what people don't realize. Yeah, you got to do it by the rules and by the books that I can help you with. But you also have to make sure that you have a delicate balance. You can
Yeah,
show
yeah.
love and care as a human resource for people while also being an executive for people ops and making sure we're adhering to policy and procedures while you do it. It's not that hard, but it's giving of yourself.
And I know the whole point of this is grief, but so much of what you do can be put into the spectrum of grief, right?
Mhm.
And and you as a voice for not only the business but for the people, if everybody had that mindset and that point of view, like could you imagine how much better we would be, right?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much. No, I know I really do appreciate
Did
the
a hair
kind
flip
words.
for those of you who
A
didn't
little
see.
hair flip. It's not about that though. It really is about no one's going to remember how much I made any of these companies I made. No one's going to remember that. They're going to remember the impact I had on their life. And that's my legacy that I'm going to leave is how I changed the world while I was here. And has it been perfect? No. It hasn't been perfect by any means, but that's what makes me imperfectly perfect, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what makes my journey because I know that I've learned from everything that I've experienced and now I can relate with you better. And every chapter of my life has made me more understanding, a better person from it. I've learned from all of those things, and I'm finally more in my more senior year, at age 46, learning really what it takes to like be well-rounded in what I'm doing. And
mhm,
so I really can only hope that other businesses and the businesses that we work with can understand that just the smallest bit can go a long way, and it can really take your company from here to here by the relationships, again, with the book, and the relationships you have with people will take you everywhere in this world.
yeah,
If anybody can take anything away from this, then it's a win for me for what we're trying to do and the movement of just sharing kindness to others and being a resource for people.
yeah, go get the book,
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah. Yeah,
This
it's
one's
on
a
Amazon.
genius.
It's on Amazon. Check it out. Or selfish plug. You can go to www.elevatepeopleopsllc.com. Use Legacy 10, and that's get you the book for $10. My dad is my legacy, and this is a legacy to my kids. So Legacy 10. You get the book for $10 on my website. So check it out. We do all kinds of great things just trying to make work not work because when it's not work, you enjoy what you do and you're happy. So I don't have to check anything at the door. I work from home. So it's not like I'm
Mhm.
checking anything at the door. I'm checking it here because I absolutely love what I do and I love helping people. So hopefully you can feel that, your listeners can feel that, and I can help them love what they do too.
I was talking to someone the other day about how when you choose to connect with someone to do an interview, it's way more cosmic than you would notice it is in the moment. But it's things like that where you're having a conversation and you connect on such a like spiritual level with the person that you're talking to, right? I know on our conversation you were talking a lot about your faith and you were kind of iffy on whether or not you could bring it up. And I was like, no, like I am here for everybody, like
Right.
this is my space and the people that I bring on are allowed to share every aspect of their grief and every aspect of their healing. And like you're more than welcome to share that if you want to. So because I'm a very spiritual person and like I said, it's so much bigger than we are.
In HR, you're not supposed to talk about politics and religion, right? So I've been trained my whole life not to talk about my politics or religion, but really my faith, I see through faith and not by sight. And it's guided me everywhere I'm supposed to be, I'm supposed to be. And I just give it all to him with a capital H. And I'll say it right here because it just really, it's everything. It got me through everything, even my not best self. I'm like, Lord, help me. I have no idea where I'm going. I cannot see. Help me. And he has gotten me through the darkest times.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like for you, you know what I mean? Whatever
Yeah.
it looks like for you, whatever you need to get through, that's what you get through. That's just personally what's gotten me through these
Yeah.
things. And I even take it in the little pieces of HR that I do, and I look at it as therapy for the soul when I go to church. I don't look at it as, this is my way and this is how it's supposed to be. And there's only one judge and it's not me. And there's only one person out there that can say what's right or wrong, and it's not me. And all I can do is just offer love. And I think that once we get back to that, it's going to help. It's going to help a lot just to love each other, no matter what your denomination or beliefs are, political views, whatever. If you just get back to loving people and appreciate the fact that we're different for a reason, that's what can bring us closer together. So I'm
Absolutely.
glad you have a platform where we can do that. And whereas if I brought up my faith, I wasn't going to offend people because that's the last thing I want to do. But
I
for
will tell
me,
you one
that's
thing about me,
me.
April, sorry to cut you off, but
No.
I am perfectly happy offending people. So you're in a safe space.
Yeah, see, this is why HR is not in your wheelhouse, my friend.
No, I would
You
be
got it. You
terrible
got to
at it.
be in the middle. But again, you can do it and not push your views off on other people and just show love. And I hope that I'm a good example of that.
Oh,
So,
you are like one of the best examples of that I have met in a really long time. And
well,
I
thank you.
again, like, I thank you for that. I think that what you are doing is so important. And the fact that, like, you can see that everything you are doing is coming from love. And especially in a corporate environment, like that is almost impossible to find. You are such an example of how things should be. And
I appreciate you. I hope you enjoy the book. Share it with your son. Again, like my son and I are on this venture together with Elevate People Ops that we're trying to, get that up and going. I have a great employer right now that's such a great IWC Innovations. Great, great example of like caring about the people and giving a darn about how they are. So I have a great relationship with them. So when you have relationships like that, man, I'm not working. I'm just living and I'm loving it. So I appreciate you having this platform and we'll stay connected, I'm sure, because we have
oh, I
that
hope
connection
so.
there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Have a great day, my friend.
Y- You too. Thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate you and I appreciate
Oh,
some
thank
feedback. Let
you.
me know how you like it.
I will. I will. As soon as I finish, I'm gonna send you a message and let you know.
I love it. Thank you
Awesome.
so much. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.
And that, my friends, was April. Thank you so much for being on the show today, April. I had such a great time talking with you. Thank you so much for being here today, friends. If you have a story of grief that you would like to share, please reach out to me at morningpeoplepodcast@gmail.com. You can find me on TikTok at Morning People Podcast, Instagram at Morning People Podcast. I got YouTube out there, Morning People Podcast, I believe. I have no idea anymore, really. Have a good day. Enjoy your breakfast or snacks. You're not alone. You're a morning person. Bye.